great.
sometime. Yeah, I didn't even notice Jarvis Green, but maybe it was a secretary or something. But right above the championship.
Well, listen, I don't remember the name, but that doesn't mean anything to me. I mean, there's so many players that play in the NFL.
Well, the neat thing is he has a shrimp company, like Bubba Gump Shrimp
Oh,
Company. It's
cool.
not Bubba Gump; it's his own thing out in New Orleans. So he got his degree in engineering and started this shrimp company. So that'd be kind of fun.
Well, that'd be good.
Yeah.
Definitely tied into the business end of things. Getting out of sports and into your own business.
Yeah.
Because so many guys. I mean, there are a lot of guys that do that, and they do it very well, but you never hear about them.
No, exactly.
Because it's not real sexy.
Yeah.
You hear more about the idiots that
Exactly.
or the tragedies.
True.
Speaking of which, yesterday it was really sad. The assistant coach of the, I don't know if you heard this, assistant coach of the New Orleans Pelicans NBA team, Monty Williams, who used to be a pretty good player, he's got a wife and 5 kids. His wife was driving this SUV downtown Oklahoma City, got T-boned, and she was killed.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah,
I didn't
only
hear
34 years old.
That's so sad.
37, left behind 5 kids. Kids are like between 14 and 7. 5 kids.
Boy, did T-bone like that.
Yeah. Well, people just they're impatient. I noticed coming off the freeway today. I mean, just to get a little extra room, somebody's driving 80 miles an hour to get around somebody. It's stupid.
I know they don't really think about how they probably saved 8 seconds.
Well, they didn't even say that, and they could have. Usually, they don't cut people off. But just that's the idea. Some people freak out when somebody does that. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
Why freak somebody out? Just take the extra time.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
You kind of learn that with age.
I know. Yeah, it's true.
I've been teaching myself.
It's very true. It's never too late to learn. I tried calling Vern a couple times. I don't know if you tried texting.
I did. He's in Pebble Beach.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's probably having a great time down there.
Oh. Lucky guy.
Vern's one of those few people I know that has made this transition to shooting his own video and doesn't mind it at all because he loves being busy. But, I mean, the idea that you have to shoot your own video, that's what I did when I was in Eureka, because we only had a 5-man staff.
A lot of work.
It is, but you appreciate what you're doing more, and it's kind of like doing radio, only, radio, you're your own boss, but radio, you don't have to do all that logistical stuff. I just have to take my sound, cut it up, put it in files,
Gotcha.
and, make sure it's ready to go.
I mean, this is I had to take a little bit to get used to, watching the clock, watching this thing. And all
You're
that.
doing a good job with it.
But I kind of learned because I'm not that good at multitasking. But,
once you get used to all this 21st century media, it's not that difficult, really.
You're right.
It really isn't. It's just for us older guys, it's a little daunting at first, but.
It's like I need a 10-year-old kid to teach me all this.
Oh, yeah. Well, they grow up with it.
Get into all this stuff?
They grow up with it,
Yeah.
It's part of their. My daughter, she just amazes me.
She's really into it.
Oh, my God. She takes my phone and just does amazing things with it. I go, how did you do that?
Crazy.
I said, slow down, show me.
Yeah.
Slow down.
Oh, come on, Dad.
She's pretty cool with it. She goes, okay. Such a little character.
Always be Daddy's little girl.
Yeah. Oh, that day, the only girl.
Yeah. I did confirm yesterday that I was going to call him.
Sometimes he's on the other line. Sometimes he'll step out or something.
Hey, Jarvis?
Hey, what's up?
Hey, good. Hey, it's Edward Brown. I'm here with my co-host, Bruce McGowan.
Hey, Jarvis, how you doing? I got a mouthful of ice cream, so I apologize.
How you doing?
Yeah, good.
Doing good out here.
Thanks so much for joining us. What we're going to do is, we won't keep you on too long. I thought, maybe do it like a segment or two last, maybe 15 minutes or so. And what I wanted to do is, talk about your transition from pro football to doing your shrimp company, and how that was, and the challenges and the benefits that you got, using your name, that sort of thing. That'll be okay?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to start this right now. And what we do is we do a quick little 2-minute interlude, kind of an introduction of what we're going to talk about. And you'll join us on in about 2 minutes. So just kind of stay with us. You can kind of hear the intro here.
And Jarvis, if you wouldn't mind, let's talk a little bit about your reflections on the Super Bowl and what you thought of that defense. Yeah, it'd be kind of fun.
All right, here we go. welcome. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. You know our show. It's where we discuss sports topics from a business perspective. I'm your host, Edward Brown, along with my co-host, Bruce McGowan, longtime sports radio personality. Today's show is going to be extra special because of our guest who's going to join us in the next segment, Jarvis Green, who played for the New England Patriots as a defensive end, won a couple of Super Bowl rings, and got into his own business in the shrimp company. We're going to talk about that.
Smart guy to get out of football into something where he can make money and continue to live a comfortable lifestyle. It's a different challenge, but a lot of guys do it and do it well, and I'm sure it's going to be interesting hearing the particulars.
Well, I met Jarvis at Lee Steinberg's Super Bowl party. It was a lot of fun, and we talked a little bit, and he had mentioned that he got his degree in engineering.
Interesting.
So, must be a very sharp guy.
Yeah. Okay.
And hey, what about that Super Bowl? Was I right?
I
was wrong.
Well, I thought you picked the Broncos.
No,
okay.
I picked Carolina to run all over.
Well, so did I. I think a lot of people did. I guess we just dissed, as they say, the Denver defense, and the Denver defense was spectacular.
Well, you remember our other co-host Vern? He was telling me, the Broncos, man. He goes, "You sure, Edward? They got a strong defense."
Yeah.
I guess he knows more than I.
Yeah.
All right, so at each commercial break, we're going to ask a trivia question. And since we just finished off the Super Bowl, we will ask a Super Bowl trivia question. Some of them are going to be kind of hard. All right, so we've got to keep you in suspense there. All right, so this segment of Sports Equal, by the way, the first email with the correct answer is going to win a free 3-day, 2-night stay at the Lighthouse Resort, which is located in California. Check them out at lighthouseresortandmarina.com. This segment of Sports Econ 101 is sponsored by Pacific Private Money, still providing mortgage investments that are currently yielding over 8%. They just came out with their year-end 8.2%, secured by Bay Area real estate. It doesn't get any more conservative than that. You got to check them out at pacificprivatemoney.com. Don't touch that dial. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. When we come back, we're going to have Jarvis Green on the line. Okay, thanks, Jarvis. I just needed to do that quick little intro. I'm going to save the file, and we're going to join you here.
How's the weather back there, Jarvis, in New England? Are you in New England?
It's pretty cold. Yeah, in Boston right now. It's pretty cold.
Yeah. Well, we're spoiled out here. It's 74 degrees. We've had this unseasonably warm weather after all the rain, and I just got out of the water. I was surfing, and the waves. Yeah, the waves are huge. We've got a huge surf advisory on the West Coast because of some storms out in Hawaii, and tomorrow we have this big Waves Mavericks contest where the waves are about 30, 40 feet high. So
you're going to be out there.
No, I'm not. No, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go surf north of here where the waves are smaller. That's my favorite.
Don't you like watching those guys, though, at least?
Yeah, you can't see anything because they're way out there, half a mile out there, about a mile out at sea.
Gotcha.
Yeah, they're way, way, way out there.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. And on the line, we have Jarvis Green, former defensive end for the New England Patriots. Got a couple of Super Bowl rings. Jarvis, welcome to Sports Econ 101.
Hello, guys. Thank you. How y'all doing?
Very good. So, now, first of all, you got a degree in engineering, right?
Yes, sir.
From, what is it, LSU?
Yes, LSU.
Okay, see, I remember that.
In Rochelle, Louisiana.
Okay. So obviously you're a very smart person.
I think I am a little bit.
And then how many years did you play in the NFL?
9 years total. 8 with New England, and then I went to Denver. Did a 4-year deal, but it became a short vacation. Then I finished out with Houston, Texas for 3 games.
I got to ask you, what was it like playing for Bill Belichick and in that New England atmosphere where you had just an amazing winning culture that has been sort of in place now for almost 2 decades?
Great environment. A lot of tough times, work hard out there. I remember my rookie year coming into camp, and he literally killed us. I think we had maybe 6 or 7 draft picks. And just working through the process, work as a team. It's no iron team. We all played together. We knew each other. Off the field as well, close times, a lot of family time. But that was his life, man, with all the coaches. And we come in at 5:30, 6 o'clock, and leave at 5, 6 o'clock, at 12-hour days. And it was long, but it was successful. We played hard, we played smart.
You know, it's one thing for me to have like a desk job doing 12-hour days. I can't imagine what it's like practicing for 12 hours.
Yes. Great.
Well, Bill Belichick was kind of a tough taskmaster, but you know he's got this reputation with those of us in the media for being kind of a sourpuss. But I think the guy's not paid to be, jovial. It's kind of like Greg Popovich with the San Antonio Spurs. He's paid to win games, and the guy does a pretty good job of it.
Yes, he does. And for him to be a GM as well, wearing so many hats, to be successful at it, because so many coaches try to be a head coach with a GM, and the high percentages, it's tough beginnings, but for him, he figured it out.
So moving on from football, you started your own shrimp company, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And I was kind of teasing you a little bit about, we have Bubba Gump, the shrimp company down in Louisiana. But how did you get involved in that?
I had a friend, he's Vietnamese, and about, 4 years ago, he asked me, he said, hey, Jarvis, I have this family, he had a co-op, they have about at the time, I think it was maybe 450 or 600 boats.
Wow.
They're in the Gulf. They've been around since 71, 72, from Vietnam and communism, all that stuff. They say, hey, you want to sell some shrimp? I say, look, man, I know the difference between domestic and import, but I have no idea what the details of trying to sell shrimp. Like to who? I was in Baton Rouge. He said, no, not in Baton Rouge. Sell shrimp in the Northeast. In football there. I said, oh.
So the idea was to use your name, right?
I guess you could say that.
Okay.
I mean, I've done some things in the past with some supermarkets up here I used to have my foundation. My foundation kind of been on back hold right now. Just with the business, I've been very busy. But that was one thing. I know the lay of the land up here.
I would think the toughest part, Jarvis, too, is that you have to not only make that transition from football to business, but you also have to understand that it's going to be a little different in terms of your relationships with people, and I guess it sounds like you have a knack for that.
I think so. I think so. Being blessed with that, being from the South, my mom and dad are as well, and just having communication, with others, and no matter the environment, try to adapt and adjust. And for me, that was a big thing. And I got into the business and had to learn from the bottom. I mean, I tell people this, just don't call me Bubba.
Yeah, exactly. So I've got a crustacean question for you. So like Maine lobster is awesome. One time I went to Hawaii and I had lobster there and it was awful. And I figured it was because it's warm water compared to the cold water that New England has. How is it with shrimp with regard to shrimping, let's say down in Louisiana compared to other places?
Well, fourth wild caught shrimp. Only a few places in the world that does wild caught shrimp. In Louisiana, you got around South America, you got some farm raised, but you got also some wild caught people catching like Patagonians and Argentina, pinks and reds, and then you got Louisiana, you got a blue. Or you got from Brownsville, Texas to Key West, Florida. You got a brown, you got a white, you got a sea bob shrimp, you got a pink shrimp, you got a red shrimp, royal reds. And I think it's more just the ocean, Mother Nature.
Yeah. And
unlike a farm raised, the shrimp that everybody buys from China or Vietnam, India, Bangladesh, those places, they have to dig a pond out, put shrimp in it.
It sounds like you've become kind of an amateur scientist, knowing all these different types of shrimp.
I've been around enough for this short 4 years and learned a lot about the business, and thank God for Google.
Oh, yeah. What's the difference between shrimp and prawns? The prawns just bigger?
No, it's just that prawns are from a different part of the world. People say prawns. A lot of them prawns come from across seas. Because over there, they're in the farms, and some of them, they grow so big. I mean, you can get a big domestic shrimp, like a U2. You get 2 shrimps to a pound, depends on the season. Yeah. But we still call it a Gulf shrimp. We don't call it prawns down here.
Yeah, I remember going to the Bahamas on one of these junkets, and I could not believe the size of these awesome jumbo shrimp. But it sounds like they love the warm water.
Yes, man. Look, you can look at some of the Google, the videos, you can see they have, like right there in the bottom of the ocean where they have the volcano with all the steam coming out of the little crest, I don't know what it's called. You can see all the little shrimp hanging around the rocks because the water is warm.
Okay, so the good shrimp, they like the warm water, but lobster's cold water though.
Well, yeah, but the shrimp grow so fast because like in Louisiana, you got the shrimp, they grow like in the bay. Or we call it the big pond or the lake, and then that's where they lay their eggs. And after that, they grow out, and then they go look for deeper waters. And they're looking, so it goes from brackish water to straight looking for salt water in the ocean.
Jarvis, I got to ask you, how difficult is it for pro athletes to make this transition? I mean, I know a lot of guys while they're playing, as you mentioned, you had a foundation and you've got your business investments, but how difficult is it for most athletes to walk away from the game and suddenly do something else at a fairly young age? You're probably when this is going on, you're in your early 30s with a couple of,
when I retired.
Yeah, so you're, most people are just getting into their careers at 31 and you're changing your career. So how difficult is that?
Yeah, I think a lot of guys hear the noise at the background. You got the people telling you you're great, you're awesome, you're Superman, you're master of the universe, and a lot of guys forget. I mean, it's the NFL, not for long. Not for long. Yeah. Things happen in life. Everybody hits road bumps. You got to have a plan B, C, D, whatever you got to go at the same time. But I think a lot of guys, too, when they're playing sports, you need to be trying to adjust while you're playing. Because I know some guys who make double, triple what I've made. These guys have not a dime to their name.
Exactly. Wow. Yeah, you got to definitely be smart with the finances.
Yeah, that's true. And for me, I mean, I know my second, third year, I did an internship at Rolls-Royce, Naval Marine, the Walpole, Mass. Built ship propellers. I did that. That was out of my comfort zone. And then I worked for a hotel group, Adwell's hotel group out here in Providence. I did that for 2 years. I mean, I've been around. I owned a liquor store, a restaurant. I did so many different things. I made money. I lost money, but I got the experience.
Yeah.
And a lot of guys that play football, they don't try to make the transition. So when they get out, so for athletes, we have a short window.
Yeah, very short. Hey, in fact, speaking of short windows, stay with us a minute. We have to go to a quick break, and I'm getting very hungry talking about all this shrimp. So, all right, here's our first commercial break. Trivia question. Here's an easy one. In Super Bowl II, this kicker brought his leg to the game. Who kicked 4 field goals to help defeat the Oakland Raiders? All right, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be right back. Okay, all right, let me just save this file. We'll just catch it for
It's great to have you on here, man. I love hearing the story about your success because we talk so much, and I'm in the media. I've worked in the media in broadcasting as a sports announcer, mostly here in the Bay Area, television, radio, mostly radio. But I'm not knocking the guys I work with, but so many of us are caught up in all the nonsense and the small tragedies that happen with people, but they're not the norm. And it's nice to hear what's going on with you, that it's a good thing. And that's, to me, maybe I'm being naive about it, but tell me if I'm wrong. I think there are more guys like yourself than there are more, failures who are just having a rough time of it, making that transition. Am I right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, you're right.
Actually, let's bring that up. Let's bring that up when we come back.
Sure.
Okay. Why don't you ask him that question?
Get him into that a little bit.
Exactly.
Yeah, because I think that's an important thing to talk about.
All right, here we go. Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Edward Brown here along with Bruce McGowan. We cut to the first commercial break. We asked this trivia question. In Super Bowl II, this kicker brought his leg to the game. Who kicked 4 field goals to help defeat the Oakland Raiders? Now, I know Bruce knows the answer. Jarvis, this is before your time, but do you know the answer to this one?
No.
Okay.
It's Don Chandler.
Don Chandler. That is correct.
The Green Bay Packers. That was Vince Lombardi's last great Green Bay Pack team. It was actually his last game. And Don Chandler was actually a pretty good receiver, but he was also a kicker. In those days, a lot of kickers did other things. George Blanda, who's in the Hall of Fame, was a quarterback. Luke Rosa was one of the few guys who kicked exclusively, but they kicked straight ahead in those days. They didn't kick with the soccer style.
Oh, yeah. So, Sammy Baugh was Slinging Sammy. He was also a punter, too.
Yeah.
So we're on the phone here with Jarvis Green, a former New England Patriots defensive lineman. And Bruce, I know you want to ask him a business question.
Relating to what Jarvis has been involved with, and it's so good to hear the positive stories about what guys are doing. I was mentioning to Jarvis, I've worked in the media a long time, those of us who have, especially in radio and in the newspaper business, we tend to get a little cynical because we talk a lot about the athletes who fail, and there are plenty that do, but there are many more like Jarvis that do well. And Jarvis, I want to talk about that a little bit because, you know, the guys that do well, you don't hear much about them, but they're living normal lives like yourself and doing okay.
Yes. Yes. That's a big thing. I mean, you hear about some statistics. It's like, what, 80%? 3 years after the guy retired, he's a bankrupt, suicide, divorce, financial problems. I mean, that's a big thing. I think it's the transition. And again, I can tell you, I see the real world, and then you talk about the sports world. Everybody that's involved with the sports world, when they see you doing business, you fail on some things, they call you a failure. In the business world, you fail on a few things, as part of the business, and then you learn. Hopefully you learn. I think most entrepreneurs, they go through and they learn and they make it, and they figure it out. And my thing, being an athlete, I just knew I wasn't going to be an athlete, at 45, 50 years old. And, you got to take some type of risk if you want to accomplish anything. I mean, I took a risk putting my body out there and really playing sports.
Well, you were smart enough, too, to think beyond the few years. And in your case, I mean, playing 9 years is a pretty long time, especially, for all the whacking your body took. Do you ever, or I was going to ask you, did anybody mentor you, and do you mentor people?
Mentor. I had some great guys around me when I played for the Patriots, some older guys, about keeping your head on, staying level-headed, being responsible, being a team player. My mom and dad, my dad was a 7th grade dropout, welding school, got his AB license to weld. He welded on top of Mount Rushmore. He welded in Atlanta high-rises, so he learned and did that. He went to the military during Vietnam. My mom was a smart lady. She was an engineer major, and she had kids early, had to raise a family, but they instilled a lot of different things in all me and my siblings about getting education first. That was the biggest thing in my family, and just doing the right things, doing the things right and treat people right.
I got to ask you too. Does it, as an African American athlete, I know that there are more African Americans playing NBA and NFL. But do you feel a special kind of an obligation to sort of be a good example for inner city kids who may not have those opportunities that a lot of kids in the suburbs, that are doing better financially have?
Yeah, I think, for, like you said, the African American, population, the society, I guess our behavior on the things we do. I was blessed for I have 3 kids, and to raise them out in Boston and in Denver. They kind of see a different world, and it's just a different mentality. Because I can tell you this, my mom told me when I made it, when I played, and the money came and everything, she always told me, whatever you do in life, if you fail or you make it, please tell your kids your experience. Because my mom said, when I was growing up, we didn't have this type of life and this type of money and success. So I didn't know what to tell y'all. Because we barely made it growing up. My mom always tell me, tell your kids what you've been through, because they're going to make the same mistakes you made. You didn't teach them the right way.
A smart woman.
That's such good advice, because and so many times I think parents today, it's so hard because we're stressed to the max just to pay the bills that a lot of us don't even spend time with our kids, and it's so important to do that. And I know we get off on a tangent about this, but I've got a one daughter who's 11, and we've been lucky, my wife and I, to have not had to have a babysitter literally one night of her 11 years. There's always been somebody there, either myself, my wife, my in-laws, to take care of her, and that makes a difference with the child. It really does.
It does. A lot of people, they work their bones off, and there's no relationship involved. It's none, And I have some friends that, they work at refineries here and there. They're working 12, 15 hours a day. I tell my son is performing arts. He's 17. He's in theater performing arts. I said, man, go get your degree, graduate, go to college, and you're gonna have some fun and this and that. But finish school, man, so you have the opportunity to do what you want to do, not what you have to do or forced to do. Do what you want to do. And from that, again, I have a lot of friends and ex-teammates, and man, you go get drafted, and it's hard to go back to college and finish your degree.
Oh yeah. Once you get out, it's funny. When I finished my bachelor's degree and I started working full time, and someone had said, "Listen, Edward, go get your master's degree right away, because if you stop, it's going to be really hard to go back to work." And fortunately, I did listen to them, so I got my master's. And I think now it's like if I were to go back to get either another master's or a doctorate, and I go, "I'm too old for that. I don't want to go back to school and do homework."
Yeah. Well, it's interesting too, because I'm relating my own experience. After college, I wanted to get into broadcasting in the worst way ever since I was 18. And the only way in those days, back in the 70s, to get into it was to start in a small market. So I went up and down the coast of California and visited a lot of radio stations and dropped a lot of resumes off and had a great little adventure along the way, and finally got an opportunity out in the boonies. But you gotta start somewhere, and it's tough when you're a kid, because those choices. There are so many possibilities of careers, and I think that's the confounding thing, Jarvis, is finding something you like, and I guess in some respects it sounds like not that you fell into what you're doing now, but you had to be in the right spot to get that opportunity.
Yes.
Well, let me ask you. Sorry for interrupting you. I'm asking a quick question. Like, does your son look at let's say your success and figure, well, gee, Dad, why do I have to work so hard? I mean, you did pretty well, and maybe I can kind of ride on your coattails.
Sometimes they do. The kids look at that.
I already told my kids I'm spending their inheritance, so they're going to start from scratch.
You know what? You're right. I tell my son too. I say, hey, when I'm going, you can spend, you spend your trust. When I'm going, but right now you have to sit there and you have to work for it. And again, if I give them too much, they're gonna become spoiled and they're gonna forget.
I told the story before, when my kids were little. I think my daughter was 3 and my son was 8, and they wanted to do a lemonade stand. I didn't just I lent them the money. I didn't charge them any interest, but I lent it to them, and I told them, I said, the money you get back, it comes to me to pay me back the investment. After that, you can keep all the profits. And I kind of taught them that, and I said, listen, if you don't make enough, I'm not going to take it out of your allowance, but you guys will get nothing. You'll be working for free. But of course, cute little kids standing on the street corner selling lemonade. I mean, they almost made enough to pay for their college education.
Yeah.
Not quite.
Hey, while we got you on the phone, I got to ask you, what was your feeling about the Super Bowl? Because Edward and I were looking at Cam Newton and that offense and the way they had played, and we figured Denver was a good matchup with that defense, but we didn't think they'd be able to put the clamps on Manning or on Cam the way they did. Were you at all surprised, or was that not a surprise to you to see Denver just dominate that game defensively?
Well, I'm gonna tell you that I watched one quarter. I was coming from California, landed at 5:30 in New Orleans, so that's when the kickoff was. The quickest restaurant. And I kept up with the stats on Bleacher Report. I mean, the defense win championships, and I think Carolina, I don't know, they got out coached, I guess, because the stuff that I watched and kind of heard, and people throwing stats left and right, they should have did some type of slide protection to Devon Miller, kick the tight end, the bump where, bring in a running back.
Well, that's what was driving me crazy. They kept running up the middle. Yeah. And what are they going to do? Try to wear them down? I mean, I just don't understand that.
What got them there, but understand. Wow. What the boxer said, everybody got a game plan until they get hit.
Yeah. I think it was Tyson who said that.
Yeah, everybody got a game plan until they get hit in the face or the mouth or whatever.
The thing that impressed me about the teams that you played on, especially the early teams that won championships in 2001 and 04 and 05, was you guys won some really close Super Bowls. I mean, the one over the St. Louis Rams was one, I think, on a field goal late, and then of course the wins over Carolina. And, I mean, you guys didn't have it easy. Those were tough games.
Yeah, they were. And even back when we lost to the Giants in 07, everything was close. 60 minutes. I mean, at the end of the day, I remember the 07 game that we lost. We dropped so many interceptions and made some small little mental errors and lost the game by inches.
Yeah. Was that a little easier to take because you had won a couple before that, or won 3 before that, or was it even tougher to take because you had reached that that high
It was
point.
tough for the take.
Yeah.
170, what it was, 18, 1, whatever we were.
Oh yeah.
You know, undefeated, got that far. I remember Giants defense like no other. And again, defense win championships.
Hey, Jarvis, stay with us. We're going to cut to a quick commercial break. Come back, spend just 2 minutes with us, and we'll let you go. Okay, what was strange about, what was strange about for Super Bowl 6, 10, 24, and 33? There's something strange that happened, and not very common. All right?
Okay.
Stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101. We'll be right back. Sorry, the station kind of cuts me off. They got hard breaks because it's actually an international show with Armed Forces Radio. So they kind of get us on this clock here.
Oh, no, you're good. Now, I might be going through a tunnel. If you're losing it, just call me back.
Okay, thanks so much, Jarvis, for staying with us. Appreciate it.
Oh, it doesn't sound like you're driving.
Yeah,
You're calling from your
really
office.
good.
That's
You're
a
going to
good.
go to the end of the beat.
That's a good line.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still eating my ice cream cone.
You're still eating that ice cream?
I'm still eating that ice cream cone.
You guys talking about shrimp and ice cream? Man,
No,
I'm just going to run out here and get something to eat.
I'll tell you.
All right. And don't forget that invitation. If you come out to California, we'll treat you well.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
You bet.
Jarvis, it's a pleasure having the chance to meet you on the phone. I'm a big fan of the Patriots. My dad went to school at Harvard and always had a soft spot for the Boston teams, especially.
Boston Patriots.
I was actually doing this. I worked on the Raiders sidelines radio for about 2 years, and I was on the sidelines when the Brady Tuck game happened, and that was that was quite something. I can tell you the Raiders were not happy about that, but that was just one of those bad breaks for them.
Oh, the snow,
Yeah.
All right. Here we go.
Okay.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Again, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Cut to the second commercial break. We asked this trivia question. What was very strange for Super Bowls 6, 10, 24, and 33? Very, very strange thing.
Boy, I haven't a clue.
It's kind of tough because the way I asked it.
Yeah, I haven't a clue.
Okay, the losing team never had a penalty called against them.
Wow.
I mean, I'm surprised that any
unusual.
games don't have a penalty.
Yeah,
against them.
that happens once in a while. Once in a great while.
All right, so Jarvis Green from the former NFL lineman for the New England Patriots. We have him on the phone. Bruce, did you want to ask?
Well, no, I just was going to say, Jarvis, we were talking earlier about your experience with New England, playing for Bill Belichick, and we didn't even mention Tom Brady, and Tom Brady's from out this neck of the woods out here. And I know some of the fans, because they're not New England fans, kind of get down on this guy. But again, another guy who seems like a pretty straight arrow sort of a guy who doesn't. You don't hear a lot about Tom Brady off the field. You just see what you see is what you get. Is he pretty much that kind of a guy?
Yeah, that's straight shooter. Tom Brady, good guy, team player, no selfishness at all in his blood. Playing a long time, great career, and he know how to win.
Yeah, and of course, Bill Belichick is. Those two guys are tied at the hip. How long do you think the Patriots are going to keep this thing going? I mean, this is lasted a long time.
I think the day Tom Brady retires, you're going to have some question marks up about the upcoming seasons.
Yeah.
Until they room another guy that could do half as decent as he has done, his career will be okay.
And you played.
It's hard to replace the Hall of Fame quarterback.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, except when they did for Montana, they got.
Well, they had Steve Young, but that was that's why they've lasted for 18 years. Yeah.
Wow. So you played alongside Vince Wilfork, right?
Say it again.
You played alongside Vince Wilfork. Yeah. How did you both get on the bus at the same time? That guy's a big guy.
He's a load. Now Vince had a nice little run with you guys, and I think didn't he leave the Patriots at the end of his career and play one more year somewhere else? I'm trying to remember.
He went to the Texans.
Yeah.
Vince, yeah.
And what was it like? What was it like for you making that adjustment, going to Denver and then to Texas after playing in New England? Was it tough, or because those organizations are obviously a lot different?
It was tough. It was a different environment. Coach Jackson James was there, but Denver was the worst experience of my life.
Really? Wow. What was what was the problem?
Overtraining over everything.
And just that altitude. I don't see how you guys could be playing that altitude.
I went to school in Denver. I'll tell you, a lot of people from the East, especially a lot of the fellow students at the University of Denver, had a tough time with the altitude there. It's an adjustment, to say the least. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
How did they let you? Because you got traded, right?
No, I was up on the free agent.
Oh,
My
okay.
contract was up, and then I did a deal with Denver.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was going to ask
It
you
was
about.
New England, but I went see what side on the side of the fence to see.
Got to ask you, how'd you like playing against the Raiders? You know, the Raiders had some. I'm thinking back to 2001, the famous Tuck game in the snow at.
Yes.
That was a game to remember. I was on the sidelines doing Raider reports for the flagship station. The guys who were doing play-by-play upstairs. That was the craziest game I've ever
It
seen.
was my birthday.
Yes, it was. It was. I didn't watch much of that game, but I remember seeing it play over and over again. I think that was the beginning of New England Patriots dynasty.
It was, definitely. It's kind of funny.
The other way.
The Raiders, and again, this is painful for Raider fans to hear this, but going way back to when I was a young guy, the Franco Harris play, which started the Steelers' great run, happened at the expense of the Raiders. And Tom Brady's, Tuck rule, where New England kept the ball tied the game and then won the game in overtime, as you mentioned, that started the Patriots.
But the Raiders got the benefit of the sea of hands and the holy rollers.
Well, yeah, I mean, it all evens out. It all evens out. Yeah, definitely.
Great. Well, Jarvis Green, thank you so much for joining us on Sports Econ 101. Pleasure having you.
Guys.
Jarvis, good luck to you and good luck to the family, too. Great talking with you, man.
Thank you, guys. Y'all stay sunny out there in California.
We sure
We'll
will.
try.
Okay.
What a nice guy.
Very nice.
Yeah. You know, those guys, I have a cousin of mine, and my dad had a cousin who's the father of my cousin. I guess my cousin is cousin once removed, so he's not really a first cousin, but my dad's cousin had a son, and we were very close for a long time, from New Orleans. And I don't know if you've spent much time in New Orleans, Edward, but the people down in that part of the country,
It seems so nice.
it's a wonderful atmosphere. It's a multicultural atmosphere. A lot of French, a lot of Cajun, a lot of African American, a lot of Hispanic, a lot of Caucasian. It's just a little bit of everything. But everybody has such a good time, and the food is great, the music is great, the culture is great. It's a little kind of a steam shovel of all America.
So I got a question for you. If I come from South Africa and I'm white, am I African American?
That's a good one. You may be.
I remember this guy coming. This guy was a missionary, and he came to church one time, and he had. I mean, you could tell from his accent that he was from either like England or Australia, New Zealand, that sort of thing. Right?
But he was from South Africa.
So he says, guess what my nationality is? And I mean, I just knew it. I said, you're African.
Yeah.
Because that's right.
Yeah.
And he was as white as could be.
Yeah.
Hey, if you come from Africa, you're African.
Well, it's interesting, and not to get off on a tangent about this, but English South African, in other words, people that are from England originally, or their relatives are, and Dutch South African, very different. You remember the Boer War, which occurred around the turn of the century, over 100 years ago, between the Dutch and the English. And there's a lot of, it's a fascinating culture down there. I mean, there's a lot of things that people don't know about that happened over 100 years ago that created South Africa, which is a country that's still in major transition right now.
Still a lot of diamonds, don't they?
Oh, boy. Yeah. Only one company, I think, runs most of those diamond mines. Yeah, that's right. They've got they're Dutch, right? We talked about the Dutch. There you go.
Yeah, I don't know the difference between the Dutch one and the English.
Major difference, but we don't have time to get into it.
Okay.
It's a big difference, believe me.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So all the people I meet are probably the English?
Well, probably most of them. If they speak Afrikaans, which is that dialect that sounds kind of like Dutch, those are, unfortunately, that's the culture that sort of pushed apartheid more fervently than the English South Africans. But again, that luckily is kind of in our rear view mirror now. Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. So getting back to the Super Bowl for a minute.
Yes.
We did our little political thing today.
That's right.
I really felt for Cam Newton because if you looked, I mean, there was no blocking.
Yeah.
I mean, he just
he was under siege.
Yeah.
He was under siege.
And then when he gets to the podium, and I mean, I don't know how much time elapsed between the end of the game and the time he got to the podium, but a guy just loses the Super Bowl. He's got to be really frustrated, specifically how it happened with regard to, he gets in the. I remember one time playing flag football. It was just nothing like what he goes through. But I was getting frustrated with my offensive line because literally, as soon as they hiked the ball, the guys were on me. I couldn't do anything.
Well, and that's the thing. I think Cam Newton, it wasn't his fault. He didn't have a great game. But how can you have a great game when the defense, when DeMarcus Ware and Von Miller are in your face every other play? I mean, Denver had a plan and they executed it so well. And you got to give Wade Phillips, the longtime longtime NFL assistant coach, a lot of credit for putting. And that was his first. That was Wade Phillips' first Super Bowl, so he really had a great time of it. And all those years in the NFL, finally gets that big chance and he doesn't blow it.
Yeah.
But of course, Von Miller and DeMarcus Ware and those guys really were
they were dominant. It was incredible.
Incredible.
But they should have given Cam take an extra hour, just kind of decompress, compose yourself.
They can't do that though. Unfortunately, the media has to get their in this age of instant information. Can't be done, especially now with Twitter and the blogosphere, and I'm holding up my cell phone here. Yeah. I mean, unfortunately it's a 24-hour news cycle, and everything is within literally within a couple of minutes. And
I guess they couldn't. Well, I guess they you couldn't let him rest for an hour. You'd have to kind of play reruns of Roseanne or Family Ties or something.
Well, he got humbled, and it probably will be a good thing for his career in the long run, because it'll think about the Panthers, 16-1. 15-1 in the regular season, 17-1 going into the Super Bowl, and they were supposed to win easily. They not only lost, they were humiliated. This will give Ron Rivera's team more incentive to come back next year and really make up for it. So it's a good thing, and I think it'll be a good thing for Newton, who was at the top of the mountain, not really, but close to it, and he got knocked down about halfway down.
Yeah, no, that's true.
And he's only 26 years old, he'll be 27. 27. He'll be 20. He was born on May 11th, 1989. I remember that because that's a day before I turned 37. So that makes me feel like an old man.
You could be more than just his daddy.
Well, think about him. He is just hitting his prime. Yeah. I mean, he is in his prime years. So this guy should be around if he stays healthy for 2 or 3 or 4 more years at a high level. And there's no reason why the Panthers, who have Luke Keechley and Davis and all these great players, and Ron Rivera, that's right, Olsen. They've got a terrific future.
You go back to when the Patriots had, they theoretically could have, matched the Dolphins with regard to, being undefeated.
Yeah.
The only game they lose is the Super Bowl.
Well, and the thing about that too that's unfair is the Dolphins played a 14-game season. The Patriots played a 16-game season.
And how many teams were back then?
Not that many more today than then, but I think it's those extra 2 games. I don't think the undefeated season will ever happen in our lifetime. I really don't. I mean, someday maybe, but I kind of doubt it. It's so tough.
Well, also, especially if you have these, Thursday night games, the Monday, sometimes,
Saturday afternoon. Yeah, sometimes they do. And, I'm making a comparison to basketball. It's a little different because there are a lot more games. There are 82 games. But how about the Golden State Warriors, who, as we speak, are at the All-Star break here, the game being played up in Toronto, 48-4. That's never been done before. Even the Chicago Bulls, Michael Jordan's great teams, never were 48-4.
Here's my question. Why did they lose those 4 games? They were gassed.
Yeah, they were gassed. They had some injury problems with Steph Curry. He was out. But, I mean, if the Warriors stay healthy, they're so deep. They're so selfless. They play with such a joy. And they have such a smart coach and smart players and good guys. There's no reason why they can't get to the finals now. I think the toughest chore will be either Oklahoma City or San Antonio. Cleveland, I don't think will be a problem at all. I don't think Cleveland. You saw the Warriors just butchered Cleveland the first 2 times, or the 2 times they played them this year.
Who didn't play for Cleveland during that time?
You're talking about last year in the playoffs?
No.
They had all their
players.
They had all their players. Last year they didn't have Kevin Love. They didn't have Kyrie Irving. Yeah. Well, Kyrie Irving went down early in the series, but there's no excuse. I mean, LeBron James is trying to make too much. He's trying to make up for some of the deficiencies. The problem with the Cavaliers is like the problem with a lot of teams in the NBA, Edward, is that they don't. There's not this all for one for all attitude that we should have in sports. You see it a lot more in football. You have to be successful. In basketball, because there's only 5 guys on the floor at any one time, sometimes you depend too much on one guy, and players try to take over a game, and it doesn't always work. Most of the time, it doesn't work.
Yeah, it's amazing how many times a guy will score 48 points, and his team will still lose by 15.
Well,
and a guy can get a rebound and then just go all the way and try to score.
And a classic example of DeMarcus Cousins, who I love as a player, but DeMarcus Cousins puts up great numbers. But what about his Sacramento Kings? They're not even a playoff contender this year.
Gotcha.
So there you go.
All right. So we are going to cut to our last commercial break. Again, Super Bowl questions. Let's see. Now, the second one was really hard.
That was a good one, though. I like that. No penalties for
penalties for a losing team.
For a losing team. That's unusual.
That's probably why. See, if you do some penalties, then you get a shot at it. Okay. This week's was just really easy.
Okay.
I had to stroke your
Okay.
ego a little bit.
Okay.
Who was the first team to go to a Super Bowl and go home without scoring a touchdown?
Ooh, good one. I like that.
You'll know
Okay.
the answer.
I should know that one.
I mean, you know every Super Bowl that ever got.
Some of them I've kind of, the more recent ones actually, I know less about than the ones that
I
happened
know,
4
isn't
years
that
ago.
funny? Me too.
Well, that's because you were younger and it made a bigger impact on you.
Bart Starr, first two MVPs.
That's right.
Very
There you go. Yeah.
All right, stay with us. You're listening to Sports Econ 101, and don't touch that dial. We'll have some closing comments when we come back.
All right. Good deal. I like that guess. That was great. So you got him at Lee's party.
Yeah, what happened was, you can tell these guys. It's like,
Oh, sure.
they're still big. They're not as big as they probably were.
But you can tell he's a former player. Yeah.
So I said, I went up to him, and I guess it was actually toward the very end.
Oh, that's great.
I just said,
I'm glad you did because I just doing this morning shift
it's-
always throws me out of whack. And
It's going to happen, yeah. So I basically just went up to him. I said, excuse me. I said, because what happened was with the lady before us when we were walking in, she asked when we were checking in. She goes, "Is there any protocol?" Because this lady in front of us was like, nobody. Yeah, anything we can do or not do, whatever. And they said, "Don't ask for autographs, but you can ask for pictures."
Oh.
I said, okay. So I went up to him and I said, "Excuse me." I said, "I don't recognize you, but I'm feeling like I probably should." It's just really simple. And I never heard of him. But play 9 years and be on the
You played 9 years. You
teams.
played on those teams, yeah.
Yeah.
I should remember, but I don't.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean anything.
Yeah.
He was a solid player, obviously. Played
Yeah.
9 years for a great team.
Yeah, exactly. And so we got to talking, and he mentioned about doing the shrimp thing, and he just seemed like a really nice guy. And so I said, "Hey, would you?"
That was good stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I got Chuck Liddell. I got his wife handle all of his stuff, so I'm trying to get hooked up with.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, there were no. I didn't see any actors or actresses, but there were.
Well, yeah. If you were in LA, if they were playing in LA, I'm sure there'd be a few. But
Yeah.
I remember when I went to one of his parties in LA, and it was it was on a Hollywood set, and it was crazy. I mean, I turned around. It wasn't like the Super Bowl party the NFL puts on. That thing is
Bad.
that thing is insane.
Yeah.
It's over the top.
Quite a lot of attractive women, I have to say.
Well, quite a lot of interesting characters there. Let's put it that way.
There was one guy dressed up in all orange, Denver Broncos thing. And he was just a really crazy kind of a fun guy.
Yeah. You remember Jane Kennedy, the African American gal that used to.
Oh,
she
very
wasn't.
pretty.
She wasn't very. She was poised, but she didn't know much about sports.
Yeah.
So my second Super Bowl, or third Super Bowl in Miami, I'm at the Super Bowl party, and I literally bumped into this woman. And I'm telling you, it was like I've never been breathless looking at a woman. She's
beautiful.
She was just unbelievable. Yeah, and so nice too. I'm sorry. That's okay.
That's kind of what happened at this one. This lady, she just was working in real estate, and I guess it was like her boyfriend. He played for like Notre Dame, but then they went to the pros. I don't know what their connection, how they got in.
Right.
But
friend of friend, or maybe
something like that.
Some kind of acquaintance. Lee knows so many people.
And she's just phenomenal.
The only problem with that is, I think, and it's not always true, and I shouldn't say this, but a lot of really good-looking women are handicapped because they've been put up on a pedestal for so long they don't develop the other things that can make them true human beings.
And sometimes they have an attitude and stuff. This one actually was.
It's not. Again, it's not always true. It's not always true, but it is some of the time.
All right, how do you want to finish this one off?
No, whatever you want to do, I'll just follow your lead.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Sports Econ 101. Last time for today, I'm Edward Brown, your host, along with Bruce McGowan. Here was our third and final Super Bowl trivia question. Who was the first team to go to a Super Bowl and go home without scoring a touchdown?
I think it was the Minnesota Vikings. I believe it was 1973 against the Miami Dolphins. Am I right? No, maybe somebody else before that. So 70.
You're
71.
You're getting close. Yeah.
71 would be.
Who was it?
Well, Dallas played
Yes,
Miami in
yes.
'71. That's right. Dallas beat Miami 24-3. I believe.
There you
That's
go.
right.
That's
And then
your
Miami
answer.
went on to play in 3 more Super Bowls and won 2 of them.
And handily with going to the undefeated season.
Yes, that's right. Well, actually, that was a close game. They won 14-7, but it was.
It was only because Gary Premian tried to throw
That's
his
true.
right hand.
That's true. You're right. You're right. 14-7 the final on that one.
If he would have just kind of just fell on the ball,
Yeah.
it would have been.
He wanted to kick a touchdown. That's what. I want to kick a touchdown. I want to kick a touchdown.
Is that what he said?
Well, that's what some of these foreign guys, when they first got into football, they would come into the camp and then kind of kick the ball around. I want to kick a touchdown. No, you don't kick a touchdown. You kick a field goal.
Or kick an extra point.
It's an extra point. Yes.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah.
I'm still very happy though that Ray guy got in. And
Yeah,
in fact,
good
that
guy.
Ken Stabler, they
should have got in earlier.
Yeah,
You
while
know,
he was alive.
When he was alive, yeah. Well, he had some great numbers. It took his team to a championship, the Super Bowl in '76. I got to know him fairly well. Nice guy. You know, he was a wild character, but basically a good-hearted guy. Yeah. And a great boy. Talk about clutch. I mean, how many times did they win in the final seconds?
Well, it didn't. Was it Madden who basically said he would be the quarterback that he would choose?
As much as I love Joe Montana, Montana didn't have to do that too often because his teams were so good. The Raiders were good, but they weren't as good as the 49er teams that Montana had.
Yeah.
Sorry. No disrespect to the Raiders. The
No,
49ers won 4 Super Bowls. The Raiders won 1 in the 70s. The Niners won 4 in the 80s. So
Yeah.
there's the difference
I
right
mean,
there.
the one where he throws to John Taylor at the end, that definitely needed,
That was-
that was spectacular.
Yeah, it was. That
Okay,
was.
here's our thought for the day. Service to others is the rent you pay for your room here on Earth.
Oh, I like that.
Muhammad Ali said that one.
Wow.
And John Wooden said, it's what you learn after you know it all that counts.
Very
That
true.
was good,
Very
too.
true.
Tune in next week to Sports Econ 101. We're going to be discussing sports topics from a business perspective, giving away more free vacations.
More free vacations. I want one. I want one.
Thanks for listening. On behalf of our team, I'm your host, Edward Brown. We'll see you next week.
Good night, America.
So long.
All right. Good show. Good show.
Yes.
Good show. All right, my friend. So I was hoping that I could get. God, there's so many good things going on this week.